Manchester United have just gone and stolen Omar Berrada from City to become their new CEO, and it's a massive coup for Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos. Berrada was an integral mind behind City's rise to dominance over the last decade, having risen through the ranks at Barcelona for 7 years during their most dominant period in modern history, to become the City's Group Chief of Football Operations, overseeing the running of 13 clubs. We're going to explore Berrada's career from his beginnings in Barcelona through his success at City, and explain to United fans exactly why they should be excited about his appointment. Best in class? Meet Omar Berrada. Things are about to be very different at Manchester United. Omar Berrada was born in Paris to Moroccan parents, and after coming through an American schooling system in Morocco, he planned to pursue a career in engineering. He tried that out in USA, quickly realised it wasn't for him.
And I decided that it wasn't for me. In the middle of the school year, in December, I decided to leave and change. And all I knew at the time was that I wanted to go to Europe.
Moved to Brussels, studied in the EU Business School there, but realised he wanted to go to a different campus. So where did he go? He moved to Barcelona. And after completing his studies in Barcelona, he worked for a few years as business development manager at Honda and at World Online. But it was a certain phone call that he received that changed everything for him. In 2004, Berrada received a phone call from his former boss at Tiscali, who 18 months before had gone to work at FC Barcelona. He told Berrada that Barca were expanding their marketing department and that a person who possessed Berrada's particular skill set was needed. For Berrada, it was a no-brainer. He jumped at the chance to work for his boyhood club and has joked that they made a mistake by offering him a salary, as he probably would have done the job for free. Berrada was leaping out of his comfort zone by moving from the telecoms industry to working inside sport. And leaping out of his comfort zone is something that Berrada has done pretty much throughout his entire career. And he's done that right now in his move to United. When he moved to FC Barcelona, Berrada immediately started to learn the Catalan language. And he now speaks that fluently alongside English, French, and Spanish.
And I think on my second day, they said, here the official language is Catalan. So you have to speak Catalan. And I think the day after that, I signed up to Catalan classes and put a turbo to my language skills to learn Catalan. But it's been great to learn another language, and that's something else that's been added to kind of my personal experience.
And in terms of the job role at Barcelona, in his 7.5 years there, Berrada initially performed duties as the club's senior media business development manager before he was promoted to become the head of sponsorship, where he negotiated deals with major companies and brands. And in the early 2000s, Barcelona was struggling to monetize their popularity in comparison to other huge European clubs. And the newly expanded marketing department that Berrada was involved with was key in helping turn that around. And he was absolutely loving life in Catalonia. Who wouldn't? He'd been there for 15 years. He learnt the local language. He married a local woman. And he was now working for his boyhood club during, let's be honest, probably their most dominant period in modern history. There was absolutely no need to change anything, was there? Wrong. He did.
In the summer of 2011, I got called by a headhunter based in London who said that Man City was recruiting, that they were looking for somebody to lead their commercial team, their sponsorship team, which was the role that I had at the time at Barcelona. And I decided to go for it. I was really happy at Barcelona, really pleased, but I wanted to go out of my comfort zone. I wanted to try working in a different league. The Premier League was very attractive.
The little voice inside Berrada's head that pushes him to take on new challenges, whether that's going to Brussels and the EU Business School, whether that's moving to Barcelona or moving into FC Barcelona. He's always driven himself to become even better. And that's when he moved to Manchester City. And speaking about the move in 2020, this is what Berrada said about it. He said there was just something about the journey that really attracted me and made me really want to try something new, to try and challenge myself in a different environment and a different setting. And ever since he arrived at City, Berrada's influence grew and grew, as did his CV. He worked as the head of international business development and as the head of partnership sales in his first 4 years at City. And in 2015, he became the senior vice president and group commercial director for City football marketing. In this new role, it was his job to oversee partnership sales, partnership activation, retail and licensing, and tours. His remit was to lead and grow the City Group's commercial department across the globe by overseeing these 4 departments. Now, Citigroup's global commercial department has a presence in over 10 cities, over 5 continents. And Berrada was there in the establishment of all of that. He helped build it. Then in 2016, of course, Pep Guardiola was made the manager of Manchester City. And between Berrada's move to City in 2011 and Guardiola's in 2016, many other faces came with them from Barcelona. Most notable among them was Ferran Soriano, who became CEO, and Zeki Bergiristan, who is now widely considered one of the best sporting directors in world football. And when Guardiola arrived in 2016, it was Soriano who appointed Berrada as Manchester City's Chief Operating Officer, and Berrada relocated from London, where he had been, to live in Manchester. A former colleague of Berrada's at City once said since that moment he was seen inside the club as a sort of right-hand man to Soriano. Because Soriano was CEO of the entire City group, there were tasks that he was unable to do, and when he couldn't do them, he gave them to Berrada. He was in charge of completing the tasks that Soriano didn't have the time to complete himself. And he mostly worked with the heads of different departments such as marketing, commercial and media. But Soriano was beginning to trust Berrada more, and this is where his role became even more important to the football club. He stepped away from just doing business and got involved in the football side of things and involved in player negotiations. And this is where Berrada started to prove himself not only on the business side of football clubs, but on the sporting side too. And that's a key element for why he's such a good appointment by United. He was publicly recognised for playing an active part in securing the transfer of Aymeric Laporte from Bilbao in January 2018. He travelled on a private jet to the Basque Country, met Laporte, discussed the negotiations of the contract, and worked through those final talks to get the deal signed. And as time went on, Berrada was becoming an even more influential figure inside the City group. And in 2020, he was made the Chief Football Operations Officer for the whole of the City group. And that meant he would move away from the business side of things and focus on the sporting side. The City group, of course, with 13 clubs over 5 continents. Omar Berrada was now in charge of leading the vision for all of them to make sure that they matched the vision for the City group. That was his remit. And that is a massive step away from the business side of things that he had done so well for so many years at Barcelona and City. A former colleague of Zeki Bergiristan said this to The Athletic, which gives us a little bit more insight into Berrada and what he did. Bergiristan would be in charge of the football talk, let the player and his agent know how they would fit straight into the project, answer any tactical questions and why the deal made sense. Once this was pretty much agreed, talks would jump to a second man who would sort out the contractual side. At City, this was now Berrada. He would know everything about the salary scales in the squad, what they could spend on a signing, what they could not, all these sorts of things. Berrada, he was the details man to make sure that every single signing on paper made sense for the club. In recent years, when a Man City signing had completed their formal presentation and the media duties, they would go to a restaurant that evening in Manchester, in a restaurant co-owned by Guardiola and Soriano. Berrada and Bergiristan were ever present in those dinners. They were part of that welcome party. Berrada did, however, miss the celebration meal after a certain FA Cup final that happened in June 2023 because he was busy trying to negotiate with İlkay Gundogan, getting him to sign a new contract. He had set up a dinner meeting with Gundogan's uncle to try and negotiate that new contract. Of course, Gundogan ended up leaving and joining Barcelona. It's a rare example of Berrada not getting what he wanted, but it goes to show that even when celebrations are happening, he's working. And when it comes to being able to walk away, that's an important aspect. And a club source speaking to The Athletic said this about Berrada. Omar knows what's the best offer we can place at every moment. If with what he offers we can't convince a player to stay here, it is what it is. We've done our best. It's been a massive problem at our football club, giving players overinflated contracts, maybe contracts that they don't deserve, simply to keep them at the club. But Berrada, he knows his limits, works within them, and that's a mindset that we need to approach and adopt at Manchester United. And as well as focusing on more of the football operations, Berrada's promotion also meant that he was now responsible for overseeing and optimising all of the City football group. As I said, 13 clubs across 5 continents. He was responsible for managing multiple departments across the City football group, including, but not limited to, player transactions, sports science, data analytics and scouting, with the aim to develop talent, maximise on-pitch performance and generate value for the City group. And during his time at the club, Omar Berrada had grown to become a massively important and influential figure in the whole City Group setup, and was even viewed as a potential likely candidate to become the new CEO of City once Ferran Soriano had hung up his boots. But United have poached him. But the big question a lot of you are going to ask is, why is Berrada moving to Manchester United now? So aside from United being a bigger and more prestigious club, why is Berrada making the move across to a direct rival to the club he spent 13 years building himself? And it's quite simple, really. Throughout his entire career, as we've just explained there, Berrada has always challenged himself, has always stepped outside of his comfort zone. And at City, everything had been achieved. And at Manchester United, everything needs to be achieved. We are a sleeping giant. If we can have the same sort of organisational structure and success that City have had over these last 10 years, and we do that for the next 10 years, we will build something that will dwarf what City have built. And Berrada knows that, and he wants to be part of that. However, it goes without saying that you can't ignore the elephant in the room. Or should I say 115 elephants. City right now are facing charges by the Premier League, accusations of financial doping. And Omar Berrada was a key figure in the City organisation when this happened. However, Ratcliffe and Brailsford and Ineos are confident enough to bring him in. So they must maybe know something more, or maybe they feel that the charges won't stick. Whatever it is, it hasn't stopped them appointing Omar Berrada. But what made Omar Berrada the outstanding choice for Ineos? Why did they choose him to become the CEO? Speaking about Berrada, this is what a former Premier League chief executive said about him. He said he is a good, clean operator. He isn't the biggest character in the room, but is organised and knows the details. He is calm in pressure situations and isn't just well versed in football, he has a brilliant understanding of business. You always got the sense he was ambitious and wanted to be the main guy somewhere. And there are plenty of other character references for Berrada, but in terms of the actual football itself, he's got a track record at Barcelona of building the business side of things. He's got a track record at City of building the business things and also the football side. He is well versed on both areas, and that was the key element for Ratcliffe and Brailsford, to have somebody, a CEO, who was able to do not only the business side of things, but the football side of things, and to have experience in both. And if we're being honest, in particular, it's Berrada's success on the football side. He was reportedly involved in the Erling Haaland transfer to Manchester City. We spoke about Laporte and getting involved in negotiations there, but it's the whole remit. And since 2016, City have gained a pretty strong reputation for being very smart in the transfer market. And when asked in 2020 about why City didn't go after Harry Maguire and they let him go, this is what Berrada said. We have shown clearly over the last few seasons that we will only go for a transfer if we feel it is the right valuation. So we look at the player's quality, age, experience and what he can bring to the team, and then decide the correct valuation. If we feel it's the right one, we will do it. If not, we will walk away from the deal and look for other candidates. And that right there is music to the ears of United fans, because so often, whether it's Anthony, whether it's Casemiro, there is a long list of players that we have overpaid for, simply because we don't really have any alternatives. Berrada has bags of experience in being able to say no, in being able to move on, and that United tax, that will disappear over time with Berrada leading our club as CEO. That will change. Our approach to the transfer market will change. How smart we operate, who we go after, how much we're willing to pay, and being able to walk away. These are all things that we've just not got right, but Berrada has experience in nailing it. And Berrada has also been credited with being involved in the sales of City players. Palmer to Chelsea, Iheanacho to Leicester, Lavia to Southampton, Brahim Diaz to Real Madrid, Angelino to Leipzig, Trafford to Burnley, Porro to Sporting Lisbon, Borges to Ajax, Luiz to Villa, Bazunu to Southampton. There's a lot. And when you pull all of this together and you see Berrada's life experiences before Barcelona, to his success at Barcelona, to his personal development and growth at City to become one of the most important figures in that group, you can understand exactly why Ratcliffe and Brailsford went after him. And for us to get him is a major coup and a real statement of intent of genuinely the best in class coming into Manchester United and building a brand new football structure, of which Omar Berrada will sit atop as CEO. And multiple people who know Berrada and know the industry have described his appointment by Manchester United as a game changer from United's perspective. But what we must remember is that Berrada, he's like a star player, but you need to build a team around him. We need a sporting director, someone like Dan Ashworth. We need a head of recruitment, someone like Paul Mitchell. Build the Avengers of football directors and sporting minds at Manchester United. Let them all work together and change can really happen. And Berrada is an incredible first piece of that puzzle. And when Berrada was announced by Manchester United, the official statement said the club is determined to put football and performance on the pitch back at the heart of everything we do. And with the appointment of Omar Berrada from City, it's hard not to believe them.